And again, my name is Bree, and we're moving through some yoga stuff today. I'm just gonna grab my water bottle, one moment. All right, let's get started in a seat. I like to sit up on a bolster. You can sit up on a block, whatever that may be. The idea of sitting up on height is for really the alignment of your low back, specifically your sacrum and your lumbar spine. So when you sit up on a block or a bolster, you're going to get lift and the knees have a little bit more of an ability to drop down. And then you want to sit like, instead of rounding like we do all day when we're on our computer, getting a little bit more uplift and encouraging your weight forward so that you're sitting more in front of your sit bones. From there, pull the base of the ribs back and the skull back. Bring your hands down on your lap. And take a moment to just arrive in this seat. If you want, you can close your eyes. Deepen your breath. Feel a density and a sense of earthiness through the hips into the earth. And as you begin to expand on your inhales and your exhales, bring awareness to where your breath is going. Breathe nice and wide into the ribs and into the back of your body. Encourage full inhalations, 3-dimensionally. And full exhalations, feeling your ribs actually knit back together as the lungs completely empty. One of the most effective ways to get relief in the shoulders is simply by breathing a deeper breath. And that goes the same for the low back, mid back. Take 3 more cycles of breath here. Really just allowing yourself to arrive in this space, letting go of whatever is on that to-do list or in the back of your mind, and calling in presence. And release any air that's held in your lungs, HA. Inhale and circle sweep, reach your arms up high. And as you lift up more through your thumb and through your middle finger, getting more lift in the back of your body. As you exhale, bring your hands to a prayer. Bring the prayer down to heart center. Bring your right fist to your hand and press your fist and your hand into one another. Your shoulder blades are actually going to fan wide on your back. Think about like from your collarbones, you're expanding wide from east to west. Take a big breath, breathe into your back body here. And exhale, pull the low ribs in. You can always do a forceful exhale to get the knitting of the ribs to happen. Inhale, reach up, lengthening through the thumb and the middle finger. Exhale, palms come back down, Anjali Mudra, that symbol of offering of reverence. Opposite fist to the palm. Press your fist and your palm into one another. As you do that, you'll feel a little bit of strength build in your shoulders. Expand east to west. At the collarbones, think about the head of the arm bones getting broader. And breathe deep into that back body. Exhale, maybe like you're going to blow out birthday candles. Go. Feel the ribs knit back in. Inhale, release, reach up. Exhale, bring your right hand to your skull, a little bit towards the left side, and bring your opposite fingertips to the ground. You may already feel a stretch here. Now, pull your left shoulder down and away from the ear and encourage your right ear over towards your right shoulder. You can guide it with your right hand. There's not much pressure here. I kind of have just the weight of my hand guiding over. You might feel this in the trap and the neck. And then we can keep guiding here. Bring your chin down towards your collarbone. And then rewind. Bring your skull back. Lift your skull up. Getting through a little bit of the front of the neck. And release. Inhale, reach up. Lengthening through the thumb and the middle finger, more breath through the back body. Exhale, opposite hand comes to the skull, opposite fingertips come down towards the earth. Pull your right shoulder blade down and away from the ear. Encourage your skull over towards the left shoulder. Stay connected to your breath throughout practice. Deep inhales and full exhales. Encourage your chin now down towards your collarbone. And then rewind, leaning your skull back. Chin goes up, exploring if there's any tension in the front of the neck through the scalenes. And release. From here, come to a tabletop position. Bring your hands onto the earth. Now, push your hands into the mat nice and strong. Find a really good tabletop here. So brace your core. Fingertips are spread wide. Pull back through each and every fingertip. Root down through the perimeter of your palms. That's kind of what you want for most of anything when your hands are on the earth. Wrap your triceps in. And let's do some movement through the pelvis. So drive your knees into the mat, push them away from one another. Keep your core really strong and just working with tilting the pelvis. Tilt your sit bones to the sky, but keep your front of your body, or the upper part, the shoulders, really kind of firm, strong, and protracted, so you're pressing the earth away. The shoulder blades are fanning wide on your back. And as you do that, keep tilting your sit bones up. And now do the opposite. Again, we're just doing the pelvis, so start to tuck the tailbone. Tilt your pelvis down. Your core is going to engage more of a cat spine here in the pelvis, rounding through that low back. Two more like that. Tilting just through the sit bones, really through the pelvis. Get those sit bones reaching up, feeling a nice curve, come into your low back. And then rewind, press into the knees, the hands, and tucking through the tail. Move a little faster. Inhale, untuck. And exhale, round through the low back and tuck. And then come to a more neutral position here. Walk your knees back just a smidge. Tuck the toes if they're not already tucked. Bring your knees to just a little hover. Breathe. Stay long through the sides of your neck. And send your hips up and back, down dog. Feet should be hip distance or wider. Wider if your hamstrings are really tight, might feel better for you. Spread wide through the toes and have the big toe mound and the pinky toe mound on the earth. The heels can lift. For some of us, the heels will never lift or never touch the ground. We all can lift our heels. But let's just experiment. If you were to push both heels down, if you try to get them both down, I can hardly get mine down, but I have to actually bring my down dog shorter, and I lose a little bit of the length in my low back. So feel what that feels like in your body, and then do the opposite, maybe getting a little longer if you had to step in to get the heels down. Bend your knees a little bit. Keep sending your hips nice and high to the sky, and keep the length in your low back. Lift your shoulders up and away from the earth, so forearms moving farther away from the earth. Wrap your triceps down towards your yoga mat. From the back of the heart, extend out long through your arms, through your hands and fingertips into the earth. At this point, you may feel your shoulder blades quite a bit here, working to support you, to keep you upright. Take an inhalation. And as you exhale again, push the earth away. Inhale, reach your right leg high to the sky. Keep your toes pointing down. Exhale, pull your knee towards your nose and round. Press the earth away. Adding a little heat here. Inhale, reach it up and high. Exhale, pull it in, knee towards nose. Inhale, reach high. Exhale, contract, knee towards nose. Plant your foot in between your hands. Come on to fingertips. Blocks are also an option here. And straighten out through your front leg. If you're only using one block, which is typically what I do, you can have your hands on the inside edge of the block, and the block is nice and wide, so there's room for both of your hands to make contact on the earth. Press your right big toe down and pull it back. And for today, work on getting a nice long spine. So if you naturally round through your tailbone, untuck, get long through your spine. Breathe. Actively pull energy up from the earth, through the feet, up the legs, and into the pelvis. Now, bend into your front knee. Keep the block underneath your left hand, or just have left hand fingertips on the earth. Inhale, reach your right arm high to the sky. Rotation, a little twist. From your collarbones, expand out wide. Drink a full inhale. And as you exhale, bring your hands down. Move your block out of the way. Press your way back to a plank pose. Shift your hips all the way up and back. Down dog, reset. Each time you come to down dog is just a moment to check out and reaffirm your foundation. Strong hands press the earth away. Keep tilting your sit bones to the sky. If you are someone who loves to flare your ribs in dog pose, pull the ribs up and back. So think about having a nice long spine, but not a big dip through the spine. Inhale, reach your left leg high, toes point down, left kneecap points straight down. Exhale, pull it in, knee towards nose, round. Inhale, lengthen your leg high to the sky, down dog split. Exhale, knee towards nose. Inhale, reach it high. Another word is three-legged dog here. Exhale, knee towards nose, protract through your shoulder blades. Plant your foot in between your hands. Find this modified pyramid pose. Straighten out through your front leg. Push your left big toe down. As your left hip wraps back, encourage your right inner thigh towards the left. So the muscles are what are moving our bones. But that doesn't mean you have to think about it like that. If it works more for you to wrap your hip forward, great. You might find more engagement if you think about wrapping the right inner thigh forward towards the left. Do what resonates with you. Breathe. Deep inhales. Full and long exhales. Inhale, begin to bend into your front knee, stack the knee in line with the ankle. Right hand comes to the block. I like to bring the right hand a little wider and reach your left arm high to the sky. Pull your bottom right shoulder back into space. Inhale. And as you exhale, bring your left hand down. Move your block. Press your hands into the mat and step back plank pose. Working on building some strength in the shoulders here. Shift your heels towards the left. Always an option to lower a knee. Reach your right arm high, side plank. And just take it the other way. Come back to your neutral plank. Shift your heels the other way. Reach the opposite arm up, side plank. Come back through your plank. Gently lower your knees down towards the earth. As your knees ground, tuck your toes so you're back in a tabletop position. Heart melting, bring your fingertips forward, and it's still early, so we'll take it easy today. Lift your shoulders up, wrap your triceps down. So that's called external rotation of your arm bone. And from that place, you might already feel a nice opening. Lift the skull. Keep the core engaged and slowly melt your heart towards the earth. It may never touch the earth, but that's not what we're looking for, right? We're not looking to create this outer pose, but really inner actions. Press your shoulder blades onto the back of the ribs. And with each exhale, encouraging a little melt, some softening. It might not be very much. And just notice if you're dumping in your core, keep the core strong. If you're really tight in your upper back, you should feel this without having to go too deep. 2 more breaths. Ground your forearms and ground your hips. Sphinx pose. Press the forearms into the mat. Pull your shoulders back. Pull your right heel towards your sit bone. Reach around with your right hand to grab your right foot, a little thigh stretch. Press your left toes down into the mat as you pull your heel towards your bum. Kick your foot into your hand. Breathe. Release your foot. Encourage your legs back towards the midline if they ran away. Strong legs press down into the earth. Pull your opposite heel towards your bum. Reach the hand around to grab for the big toe side of your foot. Thigh stretch. Heavy through both hips. If you're really tight, you may subconsciously lift the hip, so lower that left hip down. And a co-contraction, pressing your foot into your hand as you simultaneously pull your heel towards your bum. And breathe. Release your foot. Soften your chest down towards the earth. Bring your arms to a cactus shape. Walk your right hand fingertips in. Pull your right shoulder back and begin to pivot to the outside edge of your left hip. You may want to bend your top leg and plant your foot behind you. This is a chest/shoulder opener option to either lift your head or keep your head released to the earth. Breathe. And encourage your way back through center. Second side, opposite arm comes to that cactus, and just shift your way over to the opposite hip. You can bend your knee and plant your foot. You'll see that my foot doesn't really plant very easily. That's just because of tight hips. It's okay. If that feels uncomfortable or pinchy in your top hip, you could always straighten your leg and just let your leg hang out. And again, lifting the skull, exploring maybe what that feels like. Staying there if that serves you, or letting your skull rest on the earth. Keep pulling your left shoulder back into the socket. Breathe into the chest here. And come back towards center. Now, back to your cactus shape. Tuck your toes and roll your inner thighs in. Squeeze your inner thighs. Keep your knees down. Now, lift your shoulders. Engage through the low belly. Pull your shoulders up and back. Lift your feet to just a hover. Knees are down, thighs are squeezing. Lift your arms up, anchored back extension. Keep the knees down. I know my students love to lift their knees here. Squeeze your inner thighs. Elbow tips come a little bit towards the earth. Hands lift higher up. Inhale here. And exhale, pulse. Tap the toes and the fingertips on the earth. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, lower, tap. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower, tap. Inhale, rise up. And exhale, release. Bring your hands by your chest. Inhale, rise up through cobra. Hips are heavy in cobra. It could be all the way up or it could be nice and low. Exhale, fold. Begin to press your way up through a tabletop. Bring your forearms back towards the earth. Now, forearm tabletop. Same setup here though with our arms down. You may have more of a tendency to kind of drop the belly. So keep the belly engaged. Press your forearms into the mat. Your elbows and your wrists are in line with one another. Push your hands down into the mat, kind of tug back. Now moving through articulation of the shoulder joint. Start by pushing the earth away, puff up into the back body. That's our protraction. Shift your shoulders up by the ears, elevating the shoulders. Melt your heart, shoulder blades press onto the back of the ribs. Pull your shoulders down and away from the ears, depressing the shoulders. We'll move that a little faster. Puff up, elevate, shrug. Melt your heart, nipple line comes towards the earth, and retract, and just a little faster. And then you might be able to do these a little bit more fluidly so they don't feel as robotic, right? A little bit more water energy. And then let's take that in the other way. Pause in your protraction. Depress your shoulders, pull them down and away from your ears. Retract your shoulders. Shift your shoulders up by the ears. Puff up into the back body. Depress, melt. Think about the shoulder blades moving down and away from the ribs. They're going down to the waist. Melt your heart. Elevate the shoulders. And just move through that circuit in the opposite direction a little bit more fluidly so you can kind of roll those shoulders while keeping the core nice and strong and engaged. Land back through that forearm tabletop, strong core. Push into your hands, lift both elbows at the same time. Stack your hands underneath your shoulders. Tuck your toes and send your bum high to the sky. Down dog. And pedal it out here. Push one heel down and then the other. We typically do this first, but it doesn't have to be done in any specific order. And breathe. A little bit more of the flow to go. Begin to walk your way all the way up to the front of the mat. Make your feet as wide as your mat. Line up the outside edge of your foot with the long edge of the mat, so it's flush. The outside of your foot is flush with the long edge of the mat. Bend your knees a smidge. Option to reach your hands forward onto a block. And then as your fingertips come to the block, hinge at your hips. Your hips are going to be a ways behind your heels. Squeeze your outer shins in. Widen and broaden through your upper inner thighs. Breathe more breath into the full of the lungs, really the back body, the side body. And encourage length from the middle of the spine. Stretch out long through the tailbone and long through the crown. Inhale, halfway lift. Glide your hands up your shins. Find the length. Grab your hips, press down and out through the power of the legs. Rise all the way up. To stand, step your feet back to a comfortable hip distance. Inhale, reach your arms high. Lengthen up through the thumb and through the middle finger. Let's bend the elbows here. Hold opposite elbows. Get the skull to be, the head to be in between the arms. Take an inhale, lengthen up through the elbow tips. Exhale, side bang. Bring your right elbow tip over towards the right. And your left elbow tip reaches to the sky. Inhale, come back through center. Second side, opposite elbow tip reaches high. Inhale, come back through center. Bend your right elbow and reach it for the opposite shoulder blade. Your opposite hand can come to the elbow tip. Or if you know that you tend to flare your ribs, bring the opposite hand to the ribs and just pull your ribs down. Practice kicking your skull up into the upper arm bone or the elbow. Breathe. And come back to forearms above head. Opposite arm reaches for the opposite shoulder blade. And again, a gentle kick of the head back into that arm. Breathe wide and deep. Release. Bring your legs to hip distance, or sometimes I like slightly more narrow for chair pose. Begin to bring your hips low, booty back, untuck through the tail. Reach your arms up. Maybe let's start with arms about parallel to the earth. Drive your heels down into the mat. Push your heels away from one another. Pull the head of your arm bones back into the socket, feeling the retraction of the shoulders, and reach your arms up without flaring through the ribs and going into that big arched back bend. So staying strong and engaged through that front body and encouraging lift of the shoulders. Inhale. Exhale, option to come a little lower into your chair. Now, as you come lower to your chair, that may mean that your trunk is going to come more forward. That's okay. The goal here is still to lift, but not while exacerbating that rib flare. One more inhale. And as you exhale, sink it a little lower. Bring your arms behind you, interlace your fingers, lift your shoulders up and back. Inhale here. Exhale, forward fold. Slowly bring yourself kind of like to that halfway lift, but you'll just keep going as far down as you would like. Lift your shoulders again away from the ears and encourage your hands to drop over the back body. Release your arms down. Plant your hands on the mat. Press into your hands. Step your feet back. Plank position. Press the earth away nice and strong. And one at a time, bring your forearms to the earth. Forearm plank. Tug the elbows back into space. Bring your hands to a prayer. Shift your heels one direction. I'm going to the right. Lift your left elbow up. Maybe your pointer finger and your thumb still touch. Get a lift through your hips in your side plank. Lower both forearms down. Shift your heels the other way. And again, a little lift. It can be, the tendency could be to drop the hip. Think about the hip lifting high. Come back through your forearm plank. Tug those elbows back into space. Breathe. Lower your hips down towards the earth. Walk your elbows forward. Bend your elbows and bring your hands to your face. You can either bring your hands to your chin or a little bit wider so it doesn't feel like you're shoving your cervical spine into a deep extension. From here, walk your elbows even more forward until your low ribs are touching the earth. Drive your elbows into the mat and push them away from one another. Think about that widening happening through the collarbones from east to west. And for some of you, it may actually feel better to keep walking your elbows forward. I love to encourage exploration in the practice because really with this practice, it's going to be specific to your body on which cues work the best. So you're working on finding a little opening in that upper back right behind your shoulder blades. And just take 2 more breaths here. On the exhale is an opportunity to deepen. Bring your hands by your chest. Inhale and push yourself up. Bring your toes together. Shift your hips way back, child's pose. In child's pose, encourage your hips towards your heels. Thread the needle, weave your right arm through the left. Press your left palm or fingertips into the mat and tug your right arm back into space. You can stay here, or it might feel nice to actually ground that whole upper arm bone, that whole upper arm muscle, deltoid, and kind of twist a little bit. That may feel nice for you. And come back through center, second side, weave the opposite arm through. Come all the way back through center. Come to sit up, shift your legs around, grab your tennis balls and take a seat. So with this exercise, you may want to have a block. You don't have to use one. It'll really just depend on what pressure you want for the posture and for the balls. Grab 2 balls. And you're gonna bring both balls, so scoot your butt down to the bottom of your mat, first of all. Keep a block in arm's reach. Lay down and bring these balls along both sides of the spine. And you're going right around your traps, that really kind of chunky part of the top of the shoulders where most of us feel tension. You might get here and you're like, whoa, that's a lot. So options. So many options. You can stay here, or you could lift your hips up and put a block maybe on the lowest or the medium setting underneath your hips. That's giving more weight. Some of my students don't like that much weight. And you can always bring one hand to the ball to just shift the balls around. If you have a baggy t-shirt on, just know that that might cause, it might get wrapped in your t-shirt. All right, so we have the setup here. Now the movement. You may feel like you're already feeling some sensations. Options. Lift your arms up. Stretch your arms towards the ceiling like you're reaching for the ceiling. And then do the opposite. Pull your shoulders back into those balls. Extend your arms all the way overhead. And bring your arms all the way back down by your sides. Drive into your heels to roll the balls into a slightly new spot. If you have a block underneath you, you may need to move it. And again, lifting your arms, stretching your arms forward, pulling the head of the arm bones back, or extending your arms overhead. Now, if you feel something that's like, whoa, I encourage just staying on that spot. Sometimes I like to kind of shift both arms over towards the left, both arms over towards the right. This is a bit of like a pin and stretch technique. And if you find something that's like a trigger point and it really, you're feeling the ball get into something, that is your cue to stay where you're at and breathe into it until that tension begins to dissipate. Bring your arms back down by your sides. Drive into your heels. Encourage the balls to roll up into a new spot. And we are moving through this a little fast today, but once you learn it, you can do it on your own. There's a lot of self-exploration involved here. Some people like a snow angel effect with your arms. It's also nice to give yourself a hug. This spreads your shoulder blades wide. And if you give yourself a hug, you can do it pushing into your heels and then pulling on your feet to slide those balls up and down the length of the shoulder blades, getting into any tension that lies in this spot. This is a really hard spot for us to massage on our own. Landing back where you were, if you did do that push-pull. Releasing. You just have a few more along the shoulder blades. Drive into your feet. Find a new spot. And once you get to about the middle of the shoulder blades, if you're using a block, try out removing the block. I find that the pressure changes once you get about halfway down the shoulder blades. You may like that more. And then again, just kind of exploring movement. And so you're probably at the bottom tip of your shoulder blades now. Roll over to one side. Move those balls out of the way. And just use one ball this time. Bring the ball underneath so you have your sacrum, which is the flat part of your back, and then that really curvy part of your back, which I'm kind of exaggerating here. But that's the part you want it somewhere along that lumbar spine. Have the ball on one side, not the spine, but the muscles along the spine. And once you arrive there, you can kind of shift it around to find a spot that feels a little dull or a little tension. And with this one, no movement. Just allow the weight of your body to sink into the ball. You could encourage the ball to a different spot if you're not feeling much. So my ball needed to go a little bit lower. Bending the knees gives you more pressure. Straightening the legs would be less pressure. And let's practice our breathing here. Bring your hands to the sides of your ribs and breathe into your hands nice and wide. Exhale. 6 more like that. Breathe in. Like you're blowing out birthday candles. Complete exhalation. Inhale, breathe deep and down all the way into that pelvic floor. Exhale. Keep it going. When you breathe in, there's a descent of the pelvic floor. And as you breathe out, there is an ascent of the pelvic floor. Ideally, the pelvic floor is moving with your diaphragm. And by breathing wider into your ribs, it will encourage more movement through your diaphragm. Last breath here, make it deep and full. Second side, roll off of that ball, maybe just pause for a moment before shifting and notice if there's a sense of release or softness there. Second side, ball places underneath the hips. Find that nice firm pressure, kind of rolling around till you find a spot that feels effective, like it's going to be most effective for the release for you. And you don't have to have your hands on your ribs. You can always have the hands on the belly or arms at a cactus, but let's go for 6 more big breaths. More emphasis on breathing into the ribs and the back body rather than the belly. Another forceful exhale is a shh, breathe in. Exhale, shh. Knitting the ribs back together. Take 3 more like that. Roll off of that ball. We've got time for just 1 more movement. So laying on your side and start by prepping your head up with your hand. Bring the ball somewhere along the outer armpit and top of the shoulder blade. Most of the time you'll feel this pretty intensely. And so you can hold your head. That may feel more intense for some of you. And I actually prefer straightening my arm because that's where the intensity is for me. I've got a pretty weak neck, so I like to support my head rather than holding my head up or having it bent way down. So trying to have length through the spine. And encourage yourself to kind of shift around onto that best spot to release. And once you find a spot, stop moving and just allow yourself to be. And relax your jaw. Find a deep breath in and out. And similar to restorative yoga, myofascial release is a practice we can come back to when maybe we don't want to have a full vinyasa flow or a strong movement. Maybe we need more of rejuvenating energy. And this practice is really, it's an intuitive practice. So meaning that you can guide yourself and really put these balls wherever you want and listen to your body. It takes about around 2 minutes to get the first layer of the fascia to release. The fascia is our connective tissue. It's the interconnected web that essentially like holds us all together. So, fun fact, if you were to remove all of your bones and your muscles and your tendons and your ligaments and your nervous system and your blood vessels and all that body stuff, but you still have the fascia, that's all you have left, your whole physical form from head to toe would still hold. That is the interconnected web of the body. Let's take it on the other side. Lift up and just switch it over. You can roll over. I'm just trying to keep my gaze at you. And find a spot, maybe bending your arm. It might be different on one side than the other, so taking a moment to explore. And finding some support if you need it for your head. you feel your mind drifting away as you sit in stillness, pull it back to your breath, staying present for this last 30 seconds or so. Take 3 more breaths here. And begin to press your way up. Find yourself in a seat. Inhale, reach your arms high. Lengthen through your thumb, through your middle finger, through the crown of the head. Breathe into your back body. Exhale, bring your hands to a prayer and bring that prayer all the way down to heart center. We bow to ourselves, to each other, and to the lineages of yoga. Namaste.